Good morning, students. I'm Professor Priya Sharma of EC Department, XIRT College, Sage Group, Bhopal, Sage Anandam. So, this is our fourth lecture on the analog and digital communication video lecture series. In the earlier three lectures, in the first lecture, we have discussed about amplitude modulation. In the second, we have discussed about amplitude modulators and AM modulators and demodulators. In the third lecture, we have discussed the basic introduction of a frequency angle modulation, that is frequency and phase modulation. And in this lecture, we are going to deal with the FM modulators and demodulators. So let's get started, students. Okay. So these are the basic two methods of FM modulation. The first is the direct method and the second is the indirect method. In the first method, direct method, we have reactance modulators and vector diode modulators. And the second, it is indirect method, which is the Armstrong method. This Armstrong method is very important, students, from exam point of view. Coming first to the direct methods of FM generation. In direct FM generation, the instantaneous frequency of the carrier is changed directly in proportion with the message signal. For this device, a voltage controlled oscillator VCO is used. A VCO can be implemented by using a sinusoidal oscillator with a tuned circuit having a high value of Q. The frequency of this oscillator is changed by incremental variations in the reactive components involved in the tuned circuit. If L or C of the tuned circuit of an oscillator, that is VCO, is changed in accordance with the amplitude of the modulating signal, then FM can be obtained across the tuned circuit. A 2 or 3 terminal device is placed across the tuned circuit. This is very clear from this diagram, students. The reactance of the device is very proportional to modulating signal voltage, and this will vary the frequency of the oscillator to produce the frequency modulated wave. The devices used for this are FET, transistor, vector diode, or any other device, etc. So this is the basic diagram of our frequency modulation generation using the direct method. It consists of a tank circuit, a modulating signal, and is given in this. And from here, by varying this, we can receive the FM wave. Now, next is the indirect method, which is very important from exam point of view. Uh, in indirect method, what we do is that first a PM is generated, phase modulated wave is generated, and then from that we generate frequency modulated wave. That's why it is called indirect method of FM generation. So coming to this, in the direct method of generation of FM, LC oscillators are used. The crystal oscillators cannot be used. The LC oscillators are not stable enough for the communication or broadcast purposes. Okay, students. So thus the indirect methods cannot be used for the broadcast applications. The alternative method is to use the indirect method called as Armstrong method of FM generation. In this method, the FM is obtained through phase modulation. A crystal oscillator can be used and the frequency stability is very high of this method. So we can divide the working principle of this into 4 different parts or the operation. The first part is the generation of FM from PM. The second part is implementation of PM. Third is combining both the parts. And the fourth is use of frequency multipliers and amplifiers. We'll discuss one by one in detail. So this is the basic block diagram. Now we'll go in detail. I will explain all the 4 points through this diagram. So coming to the part 1, that is generation of FM from PM. Okay, students. So in PM, along with the phase variation, some frequency variation also takes place, as we have read it in the comparison between FM and PM. So higher modulating voltages produce greater phase shift, which in turn produces greater frequency deviation. And higher modulating frequencies produce a faster range of change of modulating voltage. Hence, they also produce greater frequency deviations. Thus, in PM, the carrier frequency deviation is proportional to the modulating voltage as well as the modulating frequency. But in FM, the frequency deviation is only proportional to the modulating voltage regardless of its frequency. To correct this problem, the modulating signal is passed through a low-pass RC filter. Through a low-pass RC filter that is known as an integrator. The modulating signal is passed through an integrator. Due to this, the high frequency modulating signals are attenuated, but there is no change in the amplitudes of the low frequency modulating signal. Okay, from this integrator, only the high frequency modulating signals are attenuated and low frequency modulating signals are passed as it is. The filter output is then applied to the phase modulator or the product modulator along with the carrier. Here, carrier is also present. Carrier. So, hence the extra deviation in the carrier due to higher modulating frequency is compensated by reducing the amplitude of the high frequency modulating signals. Hence, the frequency deviation at the output of the phase modulator will be effectively proportional only to the modulating voltage, and we obtain an FM wave at the output of the phase modulator. At the output of all this phase modulator, we obtain an FM. So, from integrator, the modulating signal is passed through the product modulator. Crystal oscillator produces a carrier signal. From buffer, it will remove all the noise, and the carrier signal is again applied to a adder, where and one of the carrier signal, which is 90-degree phase shifted, is applied to the product modulator or the phase modulator, and it is also added. So both the carriers in phase and out of phase are added here, and a narrow band FM is created here. So this is our first part, that generation of FM from PM. In the second part, it is the implementation to the phase modulator. Implementation of the phase modulator. The crystal oscillator produces the stable unmodulated carrier, which is applied to the 90-degree phase shifter as well as combining network through a buffer. The 90-degree phase shifter produces a 90-degree shifted carrier. It is applicable to the balanced modulator along with the modulating signals. Thus, the carrier used for the modulating is 90-degree phase shifted with respect to the original carrier. At the output of the balanced modulator, balance or the product modulator. Okay, students, we get DSB SC signal, that is AM signal without carrier. This signal consists of only two sidebands with the resultant in phase with the 90-degree shifted carrier. The two sidebands of the original carrier without any phase shift are applied to the combining network. At the output of the combining network, we get the resultant of vector addition of the carrier and the two sidebands. Okay, students, S20 denotes this. Now, as the modulation index is increased, the amplitude of the sidebands will also increase. Hence, the amplitude of the resultant increases. Hence, the amplitude of the resultant increases. This will increase the angle and the angle made by the resultant with unmodulated carrier. The angle decreases with reduction in modulation index. Thus, the resultant at the output of the combining network is phase modulated. Okay, students. Now, coming to the part third, combining both the parts, first and second. In the third, the audio equalizer is nothing but an RC in low pass filter. The modulating signal is passed through an audio equalizer circuit and applied to the phase shift modulator. Okay, students, we get FM wave at the output of the combining network. Thus, in the indirect method of FM generation, we use phase modulation to obtain the FM. And the fourth, use of frequency multipliers and mixers and amplifiers. The FM signal produced at the output of the PM has a low carrier frequency. As we have discussed earlier, the low carrier frequency is here and the low modulation index is also there. They are increased by an adequately high value with the help of frequency multipliers, that is group of multipliers, and a mixer. The power level is raised to the desired level by the amplifiers. So this is the group of amplifiers, multipliers, and mixer. Here the modulation index, frequency, and all other related parameters which are required for transmission are raised to a requisite level, and then they are transmitted. So I hope so this, by looking at this diagram, how this almost looks very complex, but after going through each and every block of this diagram, it is very easy to make and explain the operation of this. So I hope so now this is clear how Armstrong method or indirect method of FM generation takes place. So coming to the balance slope detector. Now this completes our generation method. Coming to the detection methods. First is the FM demodulators. So first we will discuss three detectors: balanced slope detector, then we have a ratio detector, and then we have a Foster Sealer detectors. Okay, students, the balance and Foster Sealer are very important for exam point of view. So balanced slope detectors basically consists of two slope detectors divided into two. Where is the circuit diagram? Okay, yes. Then I have to push it up. It is divided into two. This is first slope detector, dotted portion. The lower dotted box denotes the other slope detector. So it is divided into two. Okay, so it has three tune circuits. Primary tune circuit. This is primary tune circuit tuned to carrier frequency FC. Then the second tune circuit tuned to FC plus del F. Matlab slightly it is tuned to the frequency slightly higher than the carrier frequency. Then the lower circuit, lower slope detector, which is tuned to FC minus del F. That is slightly less than the carrier frequency. R1C1 and R2C2 are the filters used to bypass the RF ripple. This R1C1 is first filter and R2C2 is the other filter. Now coming to the operation of this, and the output is obtained by the subtraction of both the voltages, that is V01 and V02. Now coming to the operation, we can understand the operation of this through uh, three ranges. That is when Fn is equals to, when input frequency is equal to the carrier frequency, when input frequency lies between the carrier frequency and slightly higher than that, and when the input frequency lies between slightly lower than the carrier frequency and between the carrier frequency. So through this diagram I'm going to explain you the operation of this. So for coming to the first, when input frequency is equal to the carrier frequency. Okay. So when the input frequency is instantaneously equal to the carrier frequency, the induced voltage in T1. When input frequency equal to carrier frequency, we are going to induce the voltage over the T1 slope detector, upper dotted rectangle. Winding of secondary is exactly equal to the induced in the winding T2. Thus, the induced voltage to both the diodes G1 and D2 will be the same. So, when input frequency equal to carrier frequency, both the diodes will be on, and the output voltage is out, and the input frequency will be reflected to at the output. So, V01 and V02 will be equal, and at the output we get the voltage equal to 0. Therefore, the DC output voltage V01 and V02 will also be identical but have the opposite polarities. Hence, the net output voltage V0 will be equal to 0. Okay. Coming to the second range, when input frequency is between the carrier frequency and slightly higher than that. So, when in this range, if input frequency is the induced voltage in the winding T1 is higher than the so here the induced voltage over the upper slope detector will be higher than compared to the lower slope detector. Therefore, the input voltage to D1 is higher than the D2. Hence, the positive output voltage V01 of D1 is higher than the negative output voltage V02 of D2. Therefore, the output voltage V0 is positive. As the input frequency increases, the positive voltage will also increase. So in the second condition, here the output voltage is 0. In the second condition, output voltage will be positive. Similarly, coming to the third and the last position of the input frequency range, when it lies between the slightly greater than less than the carrier frequency and between the carrier frequency. So when the input frequency is carried, it will be the winding T2 is higher than the T1. The voltage across the winding D2 will be higher than the D1. Therefore, the input voltage to diode D2 is higher than that of D1. Hence, the negative voltage V02 is greater than V01. Therefore, the output voltage of the balanced slope detector will be negative in this frequency range. The negative output voltage increases as the Fin goes closer, as the input frequency goes closer to this frequency. If the output frequency gets outside the range of this and this, the output voltage will fall due to the reduction in the tuned circuit responses. Okay, students. So in this range, the output voltage will be 0. In this range, the output voltage will be positive. And when the input frequency lies in this range, the output voltage would be negative. So the advantages of using balanced slope detectors are this circuit is more efficient than simple slope detectors. It has better linearity, and the disadvantages are the linearity is not very good enough as compared to other detectors of the FM. This circuit is difficult to tune since the three tune circuits. It is very difficult to tune the circuits at three different frequencies. So the designing is very difficult. Coming to the next detection technique, which is the Foster-Seeley. As you can see, the diagram is almost similar as compared to the balanced slope detector with a slight difference. D1, D2 is same. Here, one inductor is induced and the coupling capacitor is also induced over here. Okay, students, the diode placing is same. Output is taken from the same area, and the minor difference is also there that both these circuits, both these LC filters are tuned to the same frequency. In earlier, it was this was tuned to other frequency, this was tuned to other frequency, and this was tuned to other frequency. But in Foster-Seeley, all these are tuned to the same frequencies. So if you compare this with the balanced slope detector circuit, then you will find that the diode and load arrangement is same in both the circuits. But the method of applying the input voltage to the diodes, which is proportional to the frequency deviation, is entirely different. However, here the primary and the secondary windings both are tuned to the same center frequency of the incoming signal, as I told and discussed with you just a couple of minutes before. This simplifies the tuning process to a great extent and it will yield better linearity than the balanced slope detector. Coming to the principle and operation of this Foster-Seeley discriminator. This Foster-Seeley discriminator is also known as phase discriminator. Okay, students? So, coming to the operation, even though the primary and secondary tuned circuits are tuned to the same center frequency, the voltage applied to the two diodes D1 and D2 are not constant. They vary depending on the frequency of the input signal. This is due to the change in the phase shift between the primary and the secondary windings depending on the input frequency. So the result of this is divided into three. This I have already told you. The primary and secondary tuned circuits are tuned to the same center frequency. The voltages applied to the two diodes D1 and D2 are not constant and they may vary depending upon the frequency of the input signal. This is due to the change in the phase of shift between the primary and the secondary windings depending on the input frequency. So coming to the result portion. Yes, the result of this circuit is divided into three. When input frequency is equal to the carrier frequency, the individual output voltages of the diodes will be equal and opposite. Thus, the output voltage is zero. This condition was same as that of the balanced slope detector. These are different. When earlier in balanced slope detector, the input frequency lies between the carrier frequency and slightly greater than that. But here only carrier frequency is present. When input frequency is greater than carrier frequency, the voltage is positive, and when it is less, the voltage is negative. I won't go through all these again. We have discussed in a very detailed way in the balanced slope detector. It is same, only the frequencies are changed. So coming to the advantages and disadvantages of the Foster-Seeley, it is more easy to tune than the balanced slope detector because the tuning is required only at one frequency level, that is carrier frequency, and linearity is obviously will be better than that. Disadvantages, as it does not provide any amplitude limiting. So in the presence of noise or any other spurious amplitude variations, the demodulator output responds to them and produces an error. This has been overcome in the other detector we will discuss, that is ratio detector. The disadvantage of Foster-Seeley has been overcome in ratio detector. It is another frequency modulator circuit. So what are the changes that are being applied, that are being made in the ratio detector, or what are the modifications being done in the Foster-Seeley detector to make the ratio detector? So the changes which are made are the diode has been in the reverse direction. D2 has been in the reverse direction. Earlier in balanced and Foster-Seeley, they were both facing the same. But in this, the position of D2 has been reversed. A large value capacitor C5 has been included in the circuit and the output is taken here. Earlier in Foster-Seeley and balance, output is taken here. But in this, output has been taken here. So let's discuss how it has overcome the limitations of this. The ratio detector output voltage is equal to half the difference between the output voltages from the individual diode. Hence, similar to the phase discriminator or the Foster-Seeley discriminator, the output voltage is proportional to the difference between the individual output voltages. Due to this reason, the operation of the ratio detector is identical to the phase discriminator. The additional feature of the ratio detector is the amplitude limiting action, which is incorporated due to the large capacitor C5. Due to this, amplitude limiter is not required into the prior ratio detector. So coming to the advantages, it is easy to align, very good linearity due to linear phase relationship between primary and secondary. Amplitude limiting is provided inherently, so additional limiter is not required. So this is how, by changing certain things, certain modifications in the Foster-Seeley circuit, the ratio detector has been made and the disadvantages of Foster-Seeley has been overcome in this. So that's all with this lecture. I hope so that FM modulators and demodulators are clear. If you have any doubt, please comment in the comment box. I think rest of the things are very clear. I was very clear. Okay, students, all the best. Thank you. Say Janand.